Hello dear all, I am Swati Sharma, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Applications, BSSS College, Bhopal. Once again, welcome to the second session of control statements in Java. We will continue these control statements. As I already told you in the previous video that we have three types of control statements. Control statements will hold the flow of execution of a program. There are three types of control statements: selection statements, iteration and jump statements. We already covered if else, nested if, ladder else if in the previous video. Now, we will start with the switch case statement, and I will also cover iteration statements in this video. So, the selection statement, the one part is switch statement. As its name shows, switch. It will execute one statement from multiple conditions. Means we can give multiple conditions in switch statement. It is like if else if ladder statement. In if else if ladder also we can check multiple conditions together, and whatever condition is true, that part will execute. In the same way, the switch statement works. We need to give the condition. According to the condition, the case will execute. So, this is the general syntax of switch statement, where we will write switch keyword, then specify the condition. Condition will be checked, then case will be executed according to the condition. In this switch statement, we use break also. Break is optional. If we will not use break statement, all the conditions will execute. Let us take an example. We will open the compiler of Java. Now, here I am making a program using switch statement. So, simple, to use switch statement, I am taking one variable. Let the variable is of integer type. Let the name of the variable is month. Now, for example, I am initializing the month value as 2. Now, we are using switch statement. With this switch keyword, specify the condition. Here I am taking month. Now, what is this month means? Within this month, the value of switch will be 2, because month we are initializing with 2. I am taking one more variable. Let the variable is string for example. This variable I am taking to print the output. Now, I am using case 1. So, let case 1, in case 1 value is equal to, I need to give a string type value, because is a string type of variable. Whenever we use a string, we have to use double quotes. So, I am using here January. Then break. Break is used to stop the compilation of the program and switch to the next case. In the same way, I just need to copy, just a minute, case 2, is equal to fab will take break. One more case we can take. Let us case 3. Here value is equal to March, then break. With this switch case, we have to use default case. What is this default? Default is basically when no value, when the condition is false, then it will switch to the default case directly. We will see the case. In default, I am taking this value is equal to invalid value. Now, when the condition is false and whatever the message you want to display, that you will write it down in default statement. Then here I will simply use system.out.println function to print the value of where is a string type of variable. Now, let us run the program. When we execute the program, here semicolon is missing. So, it is giving us an error semicolon expected. So, we simply need to put the semicolon in every statement, because here in Java each statement needs to be terminated by semicolon. Now, let us see. Yes, one parenthesis is missing. So, let us take one more parenthesis. Now, execute it. It is giving us the value as Feb, because here in place of month, the value of month is 2. So, that is the reason 2 is passed here in the condition, and whenever there is a case 2, it will go to case 2, and in case 2 the value of is Feb. That is why it is giving us Feb. Now, if I will change the value of month here, that is in place of 2, I use here 4. Now, you can see we do not have a fourth case in our program. So, when we run this program, it will go to the default case and it will gives us the value as invalid value. Yeah. One more thing, as I told you that this break is optional, but generally we have to use this break statement to switching the cases. So, we are simply, I am going to delete this break statement from here. What will happen when we delete this break statement? It will gives us the whole output, means January, February, March invalid value. As no, it has given us 4, because we are specifying the condition here. If I am changing the value of month as 1, it will also gives us the value as invalid value. It is not going to check for the first case, because case is not there, so break is not there. So, that is the reason we can use without break also, but it is optional. We have to use the break statement with switch statement. That is the main role of switch statement. So, when we have multiple conditions in switch, we use this case statement, switch case statement. So, here the selection statements are over. These selection statements were also called as decision making statement, where it was based on the condition. If the condition is fulfilled, then only the part will execute. Next, we have iteration statement. Iteration statements are also called as repetition statement or looping statements or loop control structures. These loops are used to execute set of instructions repeatedly when the condition is true. There are 3 types of loops in Java: for loop, while loop and do while loop. For loop in Java. For loop is a control flow statement that iterates a part of program multiple times. Means here there will be a repetition of a thing when the condition is fulfilled. This is the syntax for keyword we have to write down, then initialization of a variable, then condition we need to specify, then increment or decrement of a value. We always need to increment or decrement the value of variable here, and whatever the part you need to execute, you will write it down within the curly bracket or within the braces. Let us take one example of for loop again. So, here simply I am taking for loop. So, we are writing down for keyword, for int. Int is a data type, I am taking x as a variable. Now, here int x is equal to 10 for example. I have given the value, initialize the value with 10. That is, the first part is initialization of a variable with 10. Then x, for example, I want to repeat this till 20th. So, I will put the condition here x less than 20. So, this loop will repeatedly work once the value of x should be less than 20. Then x plus plus. This plus plus is an increment. We are increasing the value of x by 1. That is the meaning of plus plus. Now, within this loop, I simply need to print few values. So, system dot out dot print is a function which is used to print the value, and I am going to print here the value of x. So, what could be the output? As we are simply using for loop, how many times this loop will execute? This loop will execute until and unless the condition will be satisfied. So, let us execute the program and we will see the output. Just a minute, again one bracket is missing. So, value of the output of this program is 10 to 19, because initially the value of x is 10. The first time when the value will print, it will gives us 10. Then the second time it will check the value of x will be increment by 1. So, value will be 11 now, because 10 plus 1 is 11. Now, it will check again the condition 11 is less than 20, then it will print 11. In the same way, I can use ln here. Ln is for new line. So, if I use ln with print function, what will happen? Just see, yeah, it will gives me the output in the new line. In place of ln, we can also use slash and tab, that is for new line. So, the loop will repeated until the condition will remain true. That is the use of for loop. When we need to do something repeatedly, we use this for loop. The syntax of for loop: initialization, condition, increment and decrement. Next we have while loop. While loop is also a control flow statement that executes a part of the program repeatedly on the basis of given Boolean condition. Here also we have to specify the condition. If the condition is true, then the code will execute, otherwise it will not. And here the syntax is little bit changed. In while loop, first we will write down the while keyword, then condition, then within that we will write down the code which we need to execute, and at last we have to increment or decrement the variable. We will understand while loop with example. In place of for, I am using here while x less than 20 for example. Now, here I am going to change the condition x less than 10, and at first I need to initialize the x. So, let int x is equal to 1, initialization of the value, then while loop, then I want to print the value of x here, then at last increment of an loop, terminate it with semicolon. So, what will be the output when we execute the program? At first, it will see that the value of x is 1. Now, here the condition will be checked, 1 is less than 10. The condition is satisfied, it will go inside the loop and will gives us the output as 1 at first time. So, let us see the output. Here also the output is 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 9 it is. So, in that way we can use for loop. Now, what is the main difference in between for loop and while loop? In for loop, initialization, increment, decrement and condition will be in the single line, while in for loop firstly we will initialize the variable, then check the condition. If the condition is false, it will come out from the loop. For example, in place of 1, if I will give the value here 20. Now, initially at the very first time the value 20 is less than 10. So, this condition is false. So, what will happen? You just see nothing will display because the condition is false. And if I want to display something, I will simply write down here system dot out dot print. I am going to display a message, condition is false, and will terminate it with semicolon. Now, run the program, you can see the output, condition is false. Means if you want to display any message when the condition is not true, you can display it outside the loop. Here the loop will over here. Here the loop part will over. If you want to display any message when the condition is not fulfilled, you can give it outside the loop, so that you can identify that the condition is not correct. That is while loop. Next, we have do while loop. Do while loop is also a control flow statement that executes a part of the program at least once, and the further execution depends upon the given condition. It means here if the condition is false, then also at least once the code will execute. Means the condition will be checked at last. So, that is the syntax of do while loop. Firstly, we will declare do keyword, then within the do we have to write down the code and then while condition. Here at first the code will execute once, then the condition will be checked. If condition is false, it will come out from the loop. If condition is true, it will again go to the do while loop. Let us see with an example. In place of while, I will use here do, and here outside this I need to specify the condition while x is greater than 10, and I am going to. Now, here the value is initialized with 20, then condition is x is greater than 10. So, the first condition is true. You can see here the first condition is true. Just a minute. Yeah, here I need to put semicolon as it is a statement again. Now, you can see what is the output from 20, because the condition will remain true always. 20 should be always greater than 10, that is why it is giving me the output like this. So, here if I will take 2 as the initial variable. So, at the very first case the condition will become false, because 2 is not greater than 10. When I will run this program, I can see output will be 2, because once the code will execute even after the condition is false, and that is the main difference between while loop and do while loop. In while loop, if the condition is false, we will come out from the loop on the very first stage, while in do while loop, if the condition is false, at least once the loop will execute and then check for the condition. So, these all are the looping statements or iteration statements in Java. Thank you.